Right, what's happening, everybody? So tomorrow's the big day, the bending the sides day. I have to thickness the sides, but I'll thickness them and bend them on the same day. I'm only going to bend one because I want to leave it sit in the form for a couple days before I even take it out of the form. I skinned the form with sheet metal to avoid those rib marks that I was talking about in the last video. I don't know if that would have been a problem because the wood is going to be so thin that I think it's going to bend a lot easier without me having to smash it into the form. But I skinned it anyway. I found a piece of sheet metal on clearance. It was a $35 piece of sheet metal that I got on clearance for $8. So I made a big giant pan to boil them in. I'll show you that. And I'll tell you, working with sheet metal is such a pleasure. It's like you just get to form it into whatever shape you want. I mean, nothing is more fun or enjoyable than working with sheet metal. That's a joke. but it's kind of only half a joke, right? Because sheet metal can be lethal, right? It's like razors. But here's my big giant pan. I was looking for like a tub for wallpaper, but the only stuff I found was plastic and it was too small. So I made this giant pan that's just, a couple inches bigger than what I need. There's no solder joints or anything. I just folded everything and then kind of smashed it with my clamp. The corners, you got to make sure your corners come up high enough because there's no solder. So if the corners don't come up high enough as you fill this with water, if the corners are too low, the water is going to run out there and you're not going to have enough water. Not that I know how much is enough water. I'm just going to fill this up as much as I can. The more volume of water I have, I think the better off I'll be, because the heat will distribute more evenly. I did skin my form. Here it is. I cut little tabs in it so that I could bend them over and screw them down. I did not cut a tab here because if I cut a tab here and fold that around and put a screw in it, it's going to make a little flat spot right here. And I have seen so many videos where people are not as successful as I would like to be because I did a little drawing here. When they bend it, I see little square spots, little hard bends where the wood is not a continuously round curve. It goes like, and it has like a little straight part and then the curve continues. And that really shows up in the binding. A lot of people that are doing this, that are putting their videos up on YouTube, you'll see they'll like never show one part of the guitar, or they kind of roll past it real fast. And if you pause the video, you'll see what I'm talking about. Like these little straight parts where the wood didn't bend. Why didn't the wood bend? Either they didn't steam it long enough, it wasn't saturated enough. I don't know. I'm not an expert. That's why I think that boiling the wood is going to be way safer for me because it's the first time I've ever done this. I've seen videos of the ancient Chinese masters that they're just taking the wood and dropping it in boiling water, and then they take it out and it bends like butter. So that's what I did with this one. It worked out really, really well. I'm not sure why, if it works that well, why is everyone using a steam box or an iron when you don't need them? Perhaps I'm about to find the answer to that question. We'll see. But it worked really well with this. you know, this was only a piece of poplar, so it's already really soft to begin with. But this was a 1/4 inch thick. I'm going to be doing maple sides, and it's only going to be 3/32 thick. So much, much thinner than this. Less than half of this. You know, just make sure I boil the crap out of the maple so that I get the nice continuous curves on my form here. I put the tabs where the wood is straight because I didn't want to put one here, because if I do, it's going to make that little flat spot right there, and then I'm going to wind up with these little squares in the bend. Watch the videos, man. People are trying to hide it. You know, they roll the camera across it real fast, or they never show you one part of the guitar. Watch it. You know, videos are everything's so monetized now. Like, it's really getting annoying. Like, when people say, smash that button, don't smash any buttons. You got to buy a new keyboard. Don't like my video. Don't subscribe. Don't smash any buttons. And I can give a crap about the algorithm. Oh, do this because it helps the algorithm. Why do you care about helping the algorithm? It's YouTube's algorithm, right? It helps the algorithm is a misnomer, to say the least. What it translates to, let me translate that for you. Click this so I get money. That's what it helps the algorithm means. So don't like, don't subscribe, don't smash any buttons, and I can give a crap about the algorithm. So I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this because it's a learning experience for me. I hope you guys are going to get something out of it. This will press down when I clamp my dowel. I've learned that clamping something exactly this shape, it spreads the pressure too far. You're better off putting the pressure right specifically where you need it. That's what that line is. That line lines up with my clamping call there. And if I just line that up and I smash it down, it closes that gap without me having a flat spot in the sheet metal. The sheet metal did add dimension to this. But like I said, I have room for, I have room to play, because you see this? You see how this continues to go that way instead of that way? So this part of the guitar really should go like this, where this comes straight across like this. Same thing on this side. Over here, you can see how that bend goes downhill. It should go like this. The reason I did that is because everybody that I've seen that bends wood, no matter what technique they're using to bend it, the wood always springs. If I cut enough of the form away and tapered those sides in instead of straight, then when I release them from the clamps, in theory, the wood's going to spring back and be perfectly straight. We'll see. But anyway, even if it doesn't spring back when I take it out of the clamps, which I'm thinking now that I'm not going to get a lot of spring back at all. But I would rather bend the wood. I'd rather bend this out than in. All right, now think about this, right? You got this shape here, and you have it at the butt and at the neck, and it's too far out, so you want to bend it in. that's going to push the waist this way. It's going to push the waist out that way. If you have to bend the wood out, it's going to push the waist in theory. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. But I think this was a really good idea. You know, based on what I see everybody else, what mistakes I see being made. Why does nobody do that? How come nobody overcuts their form to allow for springback? Why? What's up with that? Like, why wouldn't you do that? Is it because you don't know how much springback you're going to get? Well, I know the dimensions of the body, so I know how much I'll have to bend them if I have to bend them, and at least I can control the direction that waist is going to move if I have to bend it. I got one more question. Check out my headstock here. That looks odd, doesn't it? They're in pairs, 2, 2, and 2. And they got a step, and a step, and a step. Now that step between that one and that one is going to be the same space as the space between the 2 E strings, the 2 D strings, the 2 A strings. On a 12 string, you have your strings are in pairs, and there's a little space between them. And that is what the difference between that hole and that hole is. Now, what that means is, man, why aren't these graduated so that they have longer and longer and longer stems on them? So that, I mean, look how much of the headboard, I got the headstock I got to cut off of this in order to have the strings come straight off the nut. I can leave it wide, but then my strings come and they do that like left hand, right hand turn thing. And this is a 12 string, man. My strings are going to be super, super close to hitting the, this one is going to be super close to hitting this post. This one is going to be super close to hitting this post. This one, so if these were graduated where they got longer and longer, even for a 6 string, have 2 short stems, 2 medium stems, and 2 long stems. That way you can push the post further in towards the center of the headstock so that your strings come straight off the nut instead of this, Les Paul kind of a design. Like, it's just a bad design, and it's an easy fix. If you're somebody that makes these things and you're watching this video, come on, you can have this one. It's a freebie. Make these graduated. But anyway, I'm going to have, it'll be 3 here and then 3 here. And then the same thing. 3 here and then 3 here. And the difference in height between these 3 and these 3 will be the difference in the spacing, the space between these 2 strings and these 2 strings and these 2 strings. Hopefully I calculated everything right so that the strings are going to come very close to being straight. I could have made them so that they're perfectly straight, but in order to do that, these 2 on the very, very end would have been too close together, and they would butt up against each other, and it wouldn't fit. So my strings are going to come very, very close to straight off the nut, as straight as I can get them without, modifying this or having, offset, these 6 on this and then these 6 over this way. Like I didn't want to deal with any of that because it's a 12-string guitar. The headstock is already longer than a 6-string guitar, and the headstock is only 9/16 of an inch thick. You know, that's not like a super, you know, it's not like an oak tree, right? So because of the additional tension, you know, you have to consider that the strings are going to want to bend the headstock. So, you know, it's already the correct thickness here. And now I got to make it narrower. So every time I shave anything off of this, it gets weaker, right? Is it going to be too weak? I don't think so. Everybody else's 12 strings look like that. In fact, this is actually a little bit shorter than most 12 strings. This is 8.5 inches on the headstock. Most of them are 9 or 9 1/4. I wanted it short, but I didn't want it so short that the tuning pegs are bunched. I could have bunched them all up, but then you have the problem where, you know, the string is going to hit the previous post because they're not accounting for the thickness of the diameter of the post plus 2 coils or 3 coils of string around that post. It makes the post fatter. I've seen 12 strings hanging on the wall at Guitar Center where the strings are literally coming and bending around the previous post. And I'm talking like Takamine, Taylor. I'm talking some good brand name guitars that I look at them and I go, ugh, that ain't cool. Like, I don't want this string rubbing on that string. Is it really a big deal? Does it really matter? They probably wouldn't have been rubbing, but whoever strung the guitar had like, you know, 15 coils. You know, the string went around and around and around and around. You know, it probably was designed properly, but some moron didn't know what they were doing when they strung the guitar. But I just didn't want that to be an issue, or I didn't want it to be anything that could be a potential issue for that. Hence the design of the headstock. We'll see if it works. All right, next video. Sides bent. Wish me luck. Peace.